I hope you didn't forget about these wrestlers. And there's a good chance that you forgot about them just because they haven't wrestled in a couple years. And because of the craziness that happened with the virus and schools not wrestling and everything going on. So I want to bring you a Fanco 5 wrestlers you shouldn't forget about and you should have on your radar for this upcoming season. Now, first, I have to talk about the honorable mentions, and that's Max Dean, Vito Rujao, Evan Wick. And the reason they're not on the list, even though they haven't wrestled last year, is because they have a little bit more like notoriety behind their name. They have a lot more press behind them. Josh Humphreys, Quincy Monday, and all of the Ivy Leagues are returning. So, first of all, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, like, why would you forget about these wrestlers? Well, they haven't wrestled in a couple years because either A, because of like a red shirt, a medical red shirt, an Olympic red shirt, or the virus shutting down their team and the team not able to wrestle last year like a lot of the Ivy Leagues. So that's why it's so fun that the Ivy Leagues are returning. So let's talk about these forgotten wrestlers. And thank goodness that we have a channel member like Dan Klein who is actually able to bring you this segment just by supporting Fanco Wrestling. He is a channel member on YouTube, and Dan just joined the YouTube channel member community last week. He's helping show support for the show, and it's a great way, but he's also getting benefits like the emojis using during the live stream. And that's one of my favorite parts about the live stream is all the crazy chats that go off with the stop stalling emoji and the mustache emoji. It's just a blast on the Fanco live show on Tuesday night. But thank you, Dan, for your support. So number 5 on this Fanco 5, Matt Finesilver of Duke. He's a 174-pound wrestler, and he returned to Duke. Now, first of all, the reason this is exciting is because it's going to add some spice to Duke's lineup. Duke, they haven't been producing a lot of excitement out of the program in the ACC. And the ACC is a competitive conference, and I'd like to see him do more. But Matt Finesilver, him and his brother, actually will add some excitement to that lineup. Now, at one point, Duke actually had 4 Finesilvers in the lineup. I think that was back in 2019. I remember at the NCAA championships, them announcing everything that was going on there. But Finesilver's a 2-time NCAA qualifier, and he's had some solid matches. He has a pretty good resume, honestly. He had a close loss to Trent Hidley. He lost him 3-1. I mean, that's just should be on the radar at least. A close match to somebody who's in the NCAA finals. He beat Daniel Bullard. That's probably his best win. He beat him twice, and Bullard, if you don't know, from NC State, was was an All-American for the first time last year. And most of Finesilver's losses actually came to All-Americans. Mark Hall, Dylan Leidy, Jordan Cutler, David McFadden, Zahid Valencia. All those guys are gone now at the weight, so maybe this could be his time to shine. If those were the top guys, maybe this is where he can do something. Could this be his year? Ben Darmstad, number 4, Ben Darmstad, who's actually ranked number 6 by Intermat, but he is wrestling 197 pounds for Cornell. Didn't wrestle last year, of course, due to the virus. Actually, didn't even wrestle the year before that. He did wrestle the year before that. Didn't wrestle 2019. So he's been like on and off. Ben Darmstad has been. He gained notoriety in 2018 when he beat Shakur Rashid, Jake Woodley of Oklahoma, and Pat Brucky. And that's how he won his actually first EIWA championship back in 2018. And that's also when he got on the stand. He was placed 6th in 2018. Then he took a medical redshirt year. And then, everything happened in 2020. Wasn't able to compete even though he was an EIWA champ. And last year, Cornell wasn't able to compete. The Ivy Leagues didn't compete. So he's entered the NCAA tournament in 2020 as the number 4 seed. So you better believe 197 better watch out for Ben Darmstad. Austin Gomez of Wisconsin, even though this photo shows him at Iowa State, because he was a transfer. And there are multiple reasons to actually be excited about Gomez. Of course, one of them is because he is transferring to the Big Ten. So he's transferring to the Big Ten. And is that good or bad? I mean, could be good, could be bad, could be a bit of both for my Guardians of the Galaxy fans. The reason I say that is because Michael Blockus came from UNI to Minnesota, and he was crushing it at UNI, but whenever he transferred into the Big Ten, it was a little bit bigger a leap, a little bit tougher for him. So could we see the same thing with Austin Gomez? Perhaps. Also him bumping up a weight. I mean, from 33 to 41 or 49 is what he's going to wrestle this year. And he's looking absolutely massive. And the third reason is just because he's not afraid of anyone. Gomez is not afraid of anyone. I mean, one of his phrases is, scared money don't make money. He's putting it all out on the line because what's there to lose? What's there to lose for him? And he's done that before. I mean, he's beat Austin DeSanto in the Iowa State duel, beat RBY, national champion, in the scuffle, and he had a close match with Dayton Fix. So now him bumping up, what kind of craziness, what kind of upsets could we see? If he's at 41, I mean, yeah, you have Nick Lee and Jaden Ironman at the top, but at least now Yanni's out of the picture. He's at 49. So I think one of the most interesting things that I want to see is, though, Austin Gomez versus his former teammate in Ian Parker. And speaking of former teammates, these next two guys, number 2 and number 1, are former teammates, no longer teammates. Pat Glory of Princeton at 125 pounds. He has a bit more notoriety, a bit more press behind him than some of these other guys, but I still had to include him because he doesn't get as much press as everyone else. So he gets press, but just not quite as much. He All-American in his freshman season, and I think that was obviously like one of the biggest things for Glory. He's All-American in his freshman season. His best match that year was over Vito Araujo and that was big. I mean, at EIWAs when he beat Vito. He also beat Rayvon Foley at NCAAs, who was an All-American. So Glory has some excitement behind him. The other reason, the real, like, a lot of wrestling fans I see talk about Glory is because he had like a decision loss to Spencer Lee when he was tech fall by Spencer Lee before. And okay, I get it. And everybody wanted him to wrestle Spencer Lee in 2020 because I think he had an undefeated season heading into that NCAA tournament, or at least I think it may have been undefeated. And they wanted him to wrestle Spencer Lee. And Glory he beat Nick Piccinini, who is somebody has beat Spencer Lee, pinned Spencer Lee in the past. And to be honest, he's going to be a threat to Spencer Lee's 4 titles. It's going to happen. He's going to be a threat. But can he beat him? I don't know. But it's definitely somebody that you may have forgotten about, and you need to be watching. Now, the other guy who was Pat Glory's teammate at Princeton, but no longer is Pat Brucky, who is now at Michigan. So he's another Princeton guy, like I said, or he was. He took a red shirt last year, so he actually didn't even compete last year. And really the reason for that was because Miles Amin was there, right? Miles Amin was at 197 pounds at Michigan, so he wasn't going to beat him. But with Amin looking like he's going to be dropping down to 184, this could be Brucky's year to shine, get back in the limelight. In his sophomore year, Brucky made the NCAA semis, and his loss was to who? The NCAA champion, Bo Nickel. He ended up placing 4th. And he's somebody that's just continually improved over time. He's a stacked resume of wins over Giaiello, Tanner Sloan, Dakota Gear, Josh Hokett, Jacob Warner. And the thing is, like, a lot of those guys, like, whenever he beat them, they weren't necessarily, like, the top-ranked guys at the time. But now we've seen what those guys have done over time. And now I want to see Pat Brucky back on the mat. More importantly, I think, is Brucky just brings so much depth to Michigan's already stacked lineup. And not to mention a great mustache. Posted this picture on Instagram, a phenomenal looking mustache. And 197 pounds is a stacked weight. It's a tough weight class. The thing that is interesting, though, is he hasn't wrestled a lot of these guys. He hasn't wrestled a lot of these like newer guys like AJ Ferrari, Nino Bonacorsi, Max Dean, bumping up. Like, that's what I think is the most fun about what's happening with these forgotten wrestlers is we get to see guys who we never thought in a million years would be wrestling each other, and now we get to potentially see that. And at the very least, if nothing else, at least Brucky's going to be bringing that phenomenal-looking mustache to Michigan's lineup this year. Hey, did you know that the audio version of the full hour-long Fanco Wrestling Show is available for free? You can download the latest episode by searching for the Fanco Wrestling Show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I hope I can make your on-the-go commute or gym workout that much better.